Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun with Benzion, a new Masechta, Maseches Nazir. Nazir Daf Beis. Before I came up with this year, I was thinking, should I even do Iyun with Benzion on Maseches Nazir? Because if you look at most of the Achronim who give Iyun Shiurim, um, you have almost a lot of Shiurim on that. Ksuvos, a lot of Shiurim. Medarim, a lot of Shiurim. It's going to be hard for you to find um, Achronim that wrote on Maseches Nazir. You don't find it too much. The Lumdus is not talked about in Masechet Nazir so much. I'm like, maybe I'll take a break like everybody else. But then I'm like, no, this is Iyun Benzion. I got something to say on every daf. Even in the other Achorim, they don't have something to say on every daf. I got something to say on every daf, every sugya. So let's continue. This just makes me special, makes me feel good. I enjoy making the Chidushim, and I have a wonderful Chiddush for you today. You're going to love the Gemara on Bezin with Bez. The Gemara says. The Gemara is discussing what the Mishnah says. The person says, hey, right? I'm going to be, right? So we assume that's a yad for a Nazir. It means you're accepting a Nazir's upon yourself. So the Gemara asks, the Gemara had a couple questions. The Gemara, two lines before the two dots, based on the base towards the bottom, right? The Gemara established that we're talking about there was a Nazir passing in front of him. Otherwise, we think maybe he's accepting himself a fast, not a Nazirus. There's a Nazir in front of him. So therefore, when he says a hey, he wants to be a Nazir. The Gemara suggests maybe when he's saying a hey, he doesn't want to accept the Nazir's upon himself. He just feels bad for the Nazir. He wants to bring his karbanos. Karbanos at the end of your Nazir's cost a lot of money. He wants to ease his financial burden, so he wants to pay for his karbanos. Not that he wants to take a Nazir's upon himself. So how do we know what it means? So the Gemara says, the Gamar Belibo, he said in his heart, if you asked him afterwards, he said, I wanted to be a Nazir. When I said, hey, I wanted to be a Nazir. Obviously, he's a Nazir. If you ask him, he says he wants to be a Nazir. And a hey sounds like being a Nazir. There's a slight possibility maybe he's accepting the karbanos, but probably wants to be a Nazir. So what's the chiddush, right? Ma'az is saying about being in piva libo shavin. You might think you need piva libo shavin. Kamash malan, kamash malan. So what does this mean? Piva libo shavin is a concept we find discussed primarily in Masechah Shavuos, in the third parak of Masechah Shavuos, where the Gemara says a case, for example, I take a Shavua that I'm not going to eat wheat bread, and then in his heart he said I'm not going to eat barley bread. He thought barley bread, but he said wheat bread. So that's called piva libo shavin. You lack piva libo shavin when your mouth and your heart contradict each other. So they negate each other, right? You need your heart and your mouth to say the same thing. So here also, right? The language that he's using is not definitively he wants to become a Nazir. Maybe he wants to accept karbanos upon himself of the person the Nazir is passing in front of him. In his heart, he for sure said Nazir. So maybe it's not piva libo shavin. Kamash malan. So what does Kamash malan teach me? I learned from Rabbi Sachs, or it's on Sachs, my Rebbe in YU. Kamash malan, there's two ways of learning this Kamash malan. One way of learning the Kamash malan is you might think you need piva libo shavin. Kamash malan, right, is piva libo shavin. Or Kamash malan, you don't need piva libo shavin. So there's two different ways of learning this Kamash malan. So you could learn, right, that it is piva libo shavin. It still is piva libo shavin. Right? When I say pas chitin and my heart thinks pas sa'orim, those are contradictory, two different things. They can't go together. When you say, hey, and there's another passing in front of me, the Gemara says that's yadayim mochichos, right? We assume he's probably wants to become a Nazir. There's a slight possibility that he wants karbanos, but that's almost like a vada. They cover the vada. It's like 80% proof. In his heart, it's 100% proof he wants to be a Nazir. That's piva libo shavin. It's pretty much the same, even though the mouth is, right, not completely, right? It's not chitin and sa'orim, they're two different things, mutually exclusive. Here, the lashon of his mouth indicates probably wants to be a Nazir, and his heart definitely wants to be a Nazir. So it is piva libo shavin. But I don't think that's the right answer. And I think, in fact, it sounds from the Gemara, the way the Gemara says, you don't need it. That sounds like what the Gemara is saying. Why don't you need piva libo shavin? We don't care about piva libo shavin over here. Because only by Shavuos, right, we care about piva libo shavin. By Nazirus, and Nazirus is a type of a neder, we just finished Pesachas Nedarim, you don't need it. The Gemara never talked about piva libo shavin by Nedarim, right? Because what makes a neder? Your dibur makes a neder. All the Achorim talk about this. The koach of your dibur, a dibur makes a neder, because a neder is different than a shvua. A neder is chal and chefsa. Yeah, obviously your thoughts are important, but your words, right, are more important than your thoughts, right? And your actions are obviously more important than your words. But the words, right, are chashav, are important enough to make a chalos on the chefsa. We know there's a concept that you can obligate yourself to give tzedakah in your heart, the libo, right? Even right, the Gemara in Shavuos learns that you can make a shvuah in your heart um, if you just think a shvuah that you don't want to eat wheat bread. That can be a shvuah, right? The Gemara learns it out in Masechah Shavuos around that daf. I forgot the Tosfos, different Makoros. Where do we know that in your heart you can set upon yourself a shvuah? Is that true by Nadarim and Nazirus, right? If he didn't say a hey over here, he just thought in his heart he wants to be a Nazir. Are you a Nazir? The answer is no. Because Nazir and Nadarim, you have to say it's Koch HaDibur. The Nadarim is Chal, and Isra on the Chefsa, even Yesh Milah B'Konamos we paskin, that it's like Hektish Haguf. There's a Me'ilah over there, like an animal that you're Makdish is a Korban. And then, there's, and a Nazirus is a type of that, where, sort of like you're Makdish, your Nazir, your head, the crown on your head, and because of that, you have different isurim upon yourself. So you can makdish yourself. The neder is chal on your head. That's one of the ways that Achron explained it. However, Shavuos is very different. There's Isra on the Gavra. There's no Isra on the Chefsa over here. So when it comes to Shavuah, you can accept something on your heart. By Nazir and Nadarim, your heart is not important. Your heart is irrelevant over here. So how does it help to think in our case, in our Gemara, that he's going to be a Nazir? Because when the Gemara says a hey and he has a Nazir passing in front of him, right? That's got dai mochichos. Otherwise, the Gemara said before, right? If he wasn't passing in front of him, dai mochichos. Obviously, he's passing in front of him. Dai mochichos, meaning it's 80% proof he wants to be a Nazir. There's a slight possibility, right? He might be saying a hey to accept the financial responsibility to pay for the Kabbalah, not to become a Nazir. That's why you ask him. You ask him, what did you mean by your words? Right? The lave is not important over here because the lave has no chashivas by Nadarim and Naziros because it's through your dibur. You're doing something very significant. Akimas sfasav. You're creating a chalos on your head, on a chayfetz. So that's very, that's only goes with your dibur. Your lave doesn't play a role. When it comes to shvuos, which are less common, only in Isra on the Gavra, or by Kedushas Damim or something like that, or Tzedakah, right, which is only a monetary value, not an actual animal. You're makdish an animal as a korban, a nadava, right, or a tzedakah, or kedushas damim, or shvua. Those are only isra gavra, chiyuve gavra, and therefore, even through merely thinking it and committing to do something in your heart, that has effect. That and when you say something that contradicts your heart, so that's a problem. People leave Moshav, and they have to be the same. Because your heart is important over here. By Nazir Sadarim, your heart is not important over here. But we asked the guy afterwards, were you mean a Nazir? So now we know for sure when he said, hey, that was what he meant. He meant to be a Nazir. It's all just a matter of clarification over here. So there's never a problem. People leave Shavin that his mouth contradicts his heart because your heart is not important over here. All it is to reveal to us that you wanted to be a Nazir. There's no, even if they are contradictory, even slightly contradictory, because it's possible, hey, because I want to accept Karbanos. It doesn't matter, even if it's slightly contradictory. Your heart is non-significant when it comes to Nadarim and Naziros, as opposed to Shavuos, let's say, and therefore there's no concept of people leave Shavin. It's only to clarify you want to be a Nazir. It's a very fundamental share I gave today. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you tomorrow.